What's shaking, everybody? Welcome to a Tuesday edition of House Divided. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Chad Hastings. Do us a solid. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Get notifications. Bingo, bango, bongo. Get it all done. We will appreciate it. You'll be in our will one day for accomplishing all of those things in our quest to get 1 billion subscribers. Chad, will just jump right into it. Big news out of Arizona in the last 12 hours or so. They find their head coach. It's not Johnny Nansen, the Texas defensive coordinator, co-defensive coordinator, new linebackers coach. So that's the good news. The bad news is they hired this new guy, and he looks like he's going to take Dwayne Aquino with him.
Wow.
I think if you're Texas, you get revenge by just taking Arizona's best player.
Now it's just going to be a whole lot of switching and swapping and all that. So Brent Brennan is apparently going to be the new head coach for a 5-year deal. He was at San Jose State. By the way, Brent Brennan to me sounds like the first idea for the sports guy in Anchorman before you land on Champ Kind. I'm just saying, Brent Brennan sounds like a fake name for a comedy movie. But
feels like a guy that used to give us our sports updates on CNN headline news.
Exactly. Brent Brennan. It just sounds so good. Such a good alliteration. But he's been at San Jose State. He's been successful there and apparently was up for this job when Fish got it. So they're kind of circling back around on a guy they like. And man, I hadn't even thought about the Akina thing. I was just knowing we were going to be talking about Nansen and kind of that angle of it. I had not considered that Dwayne Aquina could be affected by this. So now that Brennan takes the job, the idea is that he's already reached out to Aquina and he's going to offer him a job on this staff as opposed to what Aquina was going to do at Texas.
I mean, there's a report out now from Jacob Saliga, who is a reporter that covers Arizona, that says Dwayne Aquina has been offered a job by Brent Brennan and is expected to accept. What's interesting about this is I think the implication is that Dwayne Aquina is going to be on the coaching staff and not necessarily an analyst, which it's kind of mine. Go, Dwayne Aquina. Be an inspiration for older people everywhere. That man is in his upper 60s. He's going to be 68 in October. Do not tell him potentially that he cannot recruit. All those things that we said yesterday about all of the value that Dwayne Aquina would be adding to the Texas program in limited doses, to be fair. Just forget we ever had those conversations. It would seem. It looks like Texas is going to keep Johnny Nansen. Now, what's interesting about what happened in these last 12 hours is that Brent Brennan gets the job, and immediately the word was, well, they're going to offer Johnny Nansen a lot of money to come back as the defensive coordinator, which is a fascinating thought process, right? It's like, yeah, no, we interviewed him for the head coaching job. Yes. But what if he could come in as a defensive coordinator? We could pay him, I don't know, Texas money. He'd be okay with that, right? No, yeah. I think the expectation, Chad, is that Johnny Nansen's not going to do what would be in San Jose State, or not San Jose State, in Arizona's like wildest dreams is to get both of their finalists.
Well, right. You can't. Yeah, that makes no sense.
I've never heard of that happening before. A guy leaving a job and then getting potentially hired in an elevated position, only to not get it, only to then go back to that school in the position that he already left. I don't know.
He would have to be boys with Brent Brennan. Like they would have to be friends on a whole nother level for that to make sense. Because both parts of that don't make sense. The fact that you're gonna be under a head coach that you literally applied for the job and you interviewed for it. But then the idea that you'd go back to Arizona to the job you had, that's exactly what he was. He was the defensive coordinator at Arizona. And you're gonna leave that job for this Texas position. Now you're gonna all of a sudden go back. Like
if you're Brennan, you're going to hire the guy that you were competing for the job with, that the players wanted to be the head coach instead of you. That's very Remember the Titans-ish.
Yeah, it is. Like, and they're on opposite sides of the ball. Brennan's an offensive guy. He's Nansen's a defensive guy, but that doesn't feel like it would make sense. So
that's very Denzel Washington gets the job, and now we're asking Will Patton to go work for him. And he eventually does, but under some pretty forced circumstances.
Yeah, that's a bit bizarre. So in the end, if I'm a Texas fan, if I get to keep Nansen, now I know there's a nostalgia to bringing Akina back, but we've already talked about it. It was going to be an analyst role. To get Nansen in the role that they're trying to get him into, you take that if it means you have to give up Akina as an analyst, correct?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's not even – Akina was coming back to work with Nansen. So – it wasn't as if that was an accident. It was like, hey, you guys know each other? Cool. It wasn't like that at all. It was very much, I'm taking this position. You know what? Bringing Akina over would be really good for the program. Look, I think what happens next to me is really fascinating. It looks like the offensive players on the Arizona roster have indicated that if they hired Bennett, they're probably cool and they weren't going to go anywhere. That includes their starting quarterback and their star wide receiver. Yep. Those assurances haven't come from the defensive side of the ball. Mm-hmm. Arizona had a number of players that were absolutely in favor and strongly pushing for Johnny Nansen to get the job. He didn't. He's not likely to come back from a defensive coordinator position. It comes down to me to whether or not Steve Sarkisian has a conversation with Johnny Nansen and says, hey, you got any hard feelings about us letting your guys know there's a spot for them here? Because this is taboo, right? Like once upon a time, it was a big deal to say, I'm not going to try to take any of the guys that I've been working with. Like that's... The thing is, that doesn't happen now. Like we've seen even the guy that left A&M to go to Syracuse, Isaiah Robinson, right?
Elijah Robinson.
I'm sorry. Sorry, distracted by my phone. I hate when that happens. Damn those people for calling me. We've seen him target A&M recruits, guys that they were looking at. We've seen the idea that there would be players potentially that would go from A&M to Syracuse. It's just everything's fair game in 2024. So to me, it's really easy. Steve Sarkisian is cold-blooded. He has had no problems going back to Alabama. He had no problem going to Atlanta, Georgia, the very moment that Isaiah Bond's name was in the portal. He wasn't thinking out loud to himself, is this really the nice thing, the appropriate thing, the gentlemanly thing to do? So we know Sark is down to go get the talent wherever he has to go. Does Nansen have any issues with it? Because if he doesn't, if I'm Steve Sarkisian, here's what I'd pull Johnny Nansen aside and I'd say today, look, it's a tough break. You didn't get the head coaching job. I know you would have loved that. These dudes are boys. He's got his arm around him. He's letting him know, like, hey, we're going to be here for you. Here's what I want you to know, Johnny. I'm going to give you 3 scholarships. You go get whatever Arizona guys you want. We'll get the NIL taken care of. We'll take advantage of that broke-ass college in the desert. We'll take their guys. We will take defensive lineman Bill Norton. We will absolutely take linebacker Jacob Manu. And then anybody else that you think we need to have, you go get him. That's what I would be doing today if I was Steve Sarkisian. I would let that guy have a spending spree. We can't take like a half dozen guys. That's too many. 3? Sure. Do it. And if you're Texas, this is an opportunity to address areas on the team that you need to address. I don't know how we get through the week and we don't see some Arizona players that Texas will be interested in enter the portal. It's just perfect timing. It makes too much sense. And the only thing holding it back is one, Texas just deciding this is a bridge too far. We can't go take the players at Arizona. Or the players themselves who wanted Nansen to be the head coach just don't have an interest in leaving Arizona to go play in the SEC for their old coach, where they can make more money in NIL and be in front of more NFL scouts. Like, it's Texas at this point would have a lot to offer. And I just think it's a slam dunk decision. I'm almost going to be shocked, Chad, if we don't at least see a little bit of this.
Well, I would assume so. And again, it's a new age, because you can look at it as you're not stealing anybody. They're leaving.
Yeah.
They are leaving. It'd be like if you had a bar at the edge of town, and that bar was for people who no longer want to be married and want to be with somebody else. If you know that, if you meet them at that bar, well, they've made that well, this is horrible. This is terrible. No. They have said, I am leaving. Right? So that's the one thing, right? If two people come together, they've been married, you want to check, hey, you're no longer with, yeah, okay, you're checking everything. So then it's just about the
fantastic analogy. I don't know where that came from, Chad, but I loved it. Great. I give you the volleyball clap on that one.
Because we used to act like it was, like you said, like it was this horrible, terrible, awful thing. But, you know, it's not even, I would say there's gray area now, but there's not. There's just a new kind of black. You said a bridge too far. We've got a structure set up where lots of bridges are there. It's all kinds of bridges. You don't have to swim. You don't have to swing by a rope. They are building a bridge. I am leaving this place. New bridges to Tuscaloosa, new bridges to Seattle, new bridges to Tucson. And they are paved, and they've got like handrails, and you can stop and take a picture. You can selfie. You can do whatever you want.
Declaration plaques on the bridges. They're dedicated to people and everything.
Absolutely. They are dedicated to the boosters. And I mean, it's ready to go. So it is going to be wild to see if that gets to be a consolation prize in a way, but maybe Texas gets to take advantage of it, Catch. If the thought is, if like you said, let's go to that linebacker. Let's go to that linebacker specifically that you just mentioned. If that guy loved Nansen and thought, I want him to be a head coach, it's going to suck if he's not for that guy. But then once it all cools down, well, here's where your guy's going to end up. And to me, I would have no moral issues with that if I'm Nansen.
We're beyond that, right? That's such an antiquated notion.
Yeah, the kid is not going to be, if the kid says, I'm going to the portal, because it's like two separate things. I'm going to the portal because Nansen's not the head coach. That's happening no matter what. And then on the other side of it, it's, oh, well, he ends up here. Well, okay, now I'm going down this path. It's a very complicated thing. It's sort of like the, making sure was it you that brought up this analogy recently? Making sure the girl would actually go out with you before you officially ask her out. It's kind of that path of, well, if I was to do that, do you think there'd be interest? You know what? I think there might. Well, then I guess that may be where this goes.
By the way, just on the other coaching front, because I know people in the Specs chat. By the way, I see a couple of questions we'll get to in a second. By the way, Sandman, hold on, stop moving around. I did not have Cane's for lunch. I had a drink from Cane's for lunch. I know it may be hard to believe that I went into the Cane's drive-thru, because if I'd had lunch, I'd have no problem being like, yep, you're right, I had Cane's. But in this instance, no ice in the house. And
yeah,
I got to have ice with my drinks.
I had WD-40 for lunch.
The defensive tackles coach. Nothing new on that front. There's a lot of conversation, though, Chad, right now around Rod Wright. We mentioned him yesterday on the show. He's not the Houston Texans defensive line coach right now. He's the Houston Texans assistant defensive line coach. But he was the defensive ends coach in Miami in the NFL in 2022. He's been he's been a coordinator at UTSA. He's been a defensive line coach at the collegiate level for a long time before going into the NFL. There's a lot of buzz that it's looking like it just makes sense that Sark's about to, if Bennett, right? What's his name again? Brent Brennan?
Brent Brennan.
If Brent Brennan's already got like guys announcing that they're taking jobs at Arizona, and if all of this movement is taking place and Sarkisian's like, well, I can't do it yet. I need more time. Like it feels like if he wanted to get somebody from the college ranks, feels like it could be done, which would mean it might be a guy from the NFL. And if it was, why couldn't you have that position filled already when all of the schools around you are filling all of their positions? It makes sense that guy's in the NFL. It makes sense that team might still be in the playoffs. The Houston Texans are in the playoffs, so there is a lot of 2 + 2 = 4 kind of thinking here. And just something to think about. Like that's just the speculation of the day. His name's been around from the very moment that job first popped open, because a lot of players, former players at Texas, were immediately throwing his name into consideration and saying, this is what, bring him home, bring the prodigal son home. Will that happen? I don't know. We're still waiting to see what happens. But the longer this goes on and Texas doesn't have a defensive line coach announced, the more it's got to be somebody on one of these remaining rosters. And right now, there are only 8 teams in the NFL that are still playing. So it does start to dwindle the number of potential candidates literally by the day, considering there were 2 NFL playoff games yesterday. So just file that away. We got nothing yet, but boy, there is some smoke coming from Houston with regards to Rod Wright.
Yeah, and I think they've, in the last few years, they've put rules into place to try to help some of these coaches on NFL teams, because they used to make you go till you're out of the playoffs. And catch, that's rough. If you're on a badass team, just ask what's our man who was in Kansas City and now Washington, Bieniemy. Just ask Eric Bieniemy what that can do to you, because you just stay out of the discussion for so long. So now they put in little signposts, and I think one of them hits after this division round. I think there's a little wave that happens after the division round. Like they mentioned, catch, last night, the Bucs offensive coordinator is interviewing this week for the Carolina job. So they set it up as it's going along, where if you're going to go the NFL version, you can do that. I mentioned that because then that would also allow for an NFL coach, assistant, whatever, to interview for one of these type of jobs. I'm assuming that's why it's been set up as well. So maybe it is kind of during this week we might hear a little bit, or maybe it's after this next round of the playoffs, even if the Texans were to upset Baltimore.
The thing is, if he wanted to hire Wright and Wright wanted to take the job, and at the end of the day, Wright didn't want to leave the Texans before the season's over, a little bit of honor, right? We're honor among thieves. They're all thieves, but he wants to finish out the season because it's something that he started. You could still announce that if you wanted to. You could put out a press release. You could have Rod make a statement. It's not like they're going to have a press conference for a position coach. Like, that's not really needed. So there is a part of me, and he's, no offense to what I'm about to say, which means it's going to be slightly insulting.
Yeah.
But he is just the assistant defensive line coach. I just, if Houston were to lose in Baltimore on Saturday, nobody would be like, God damn it, Rod Wright, what a distraction he caused. It would be like, wow. He's an assistant coach to the assistant coach. He's not, again, don't mean to be offensive here, but he's got a little bit of like in The Office, where he's not the assistant manager, he's the assistant to the regional manager. It's not quite the same thing. So I don't know. Like, I feel like it could be announced if they really wanted to. Although, like I said yesterday, we're at a point where I don't know that the sense of urgency, you could have argued a week ago having somebody in place within 24 hours might have helped with Jamari Caldwell, who ends up going to Oregon as a transfer portal guy. You could have argued that having somebody in place might have helped with DeAndre Robinson before he made the decision not to move to Austin and begin classes today like every other freshman. But I think that is over with. I don't think there's anything else that Texas really needs to worry about from if we don't do something now, we're going to be in a problem. So, I mean, I think he can take his time. I'm just saying, like, if he wanted to, I think he could.
Yeah, and by the way, great Office reference. Somebody was just double checking on the chat. Rod is an assistant to the assistant D-line coach. Exactly. No. Yeah, assistant D-line coach.
But it is in football. I bet that joke gets made.
Yeah, probably. That's probably true. Yeah, so we'll see where that all shakes out for the D-line coach. But obviously, the biggest story of the day is going to end up being the Johnny Nansen / Dwayne Akina story for Texas. Looks like Akina may get a job on this new Arizona staff with Brent Brennan coming from San Jose State.
Real quick to Zoe here. The answer to the question of how many scholarships does Texas have left to offer to even get more players in the portal? For every one that comes in, one's got to go out. It's that simple at this point. The thing is, attrition in college football before the portal was already a thing where at a program like Texas, you would lose between like 11 and 15 players per year. Texas hasn't, only once in the last 20 years has Texas not had at least 10 departures. So between now and August, which is when the bookkeeping needs to be settled, really, you have to get this done. I mean, at the latest first week of August, but you think of it in July. You've got from January through July, probably going to lose a half dozen players. And that's without having meetings with guys and saying, you've got no place here. You might want a portal because you're not going to play here. But just through natural attrition, I think you'll see some more names come off the scholarship list. But technically, Texas, I think, is sitting on 86. So they really will, moving forward, for everyone that comes in, one will have to go out. But you can almost set your watch that by July, you'd be at 80 if you took nobody else. So I think they probably feel that they are very safe at this point to take a few more guys.
Up over 350 folks in the Specs chat. By the way, thank you for helping us get to 18.4 thousand subscribers on Orange Bloods Live. Like, subscribe, get your notifications, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell all that you know to jump on. We're at 18.4 thousand on our way to 8 million. We appreciate all of your support of Orange Bloods Live. Catch has a video for everybody here in just a second that we are going to check out. Catch, we about ready for the video here in a second?
Yeah, I mean, you're asking the wrong person. Blake,
okay,
just give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, we're going to be ready for that. Real quick before that, let me hit a little sinus and snoring specialist. Make sure you're sleeping good. Make sure you're feeling good. Make sure those allergies aren't killing you. Sinus and snoring specialist right there at Mopac and Palmer. Dr. Slaughter and the crew did incredible stuff for me back in 2017. They're doing incredible stuff for my wife the last year or so. She loves the CPAP she's got, and she is sleeping like a baby. It's important for her because she's got to get up early. The district today where she works, driving the bus, they went on a 2-hour delay instead of the full day off. She wasn't happy, but she was sitting behind that steering wheel ready to go, and she got a great night's sleep last night. So there's your QR code, sinus and snoring specialist. They can get rid of your allergies for good and so much more. Find out more by clicking that code. You can also go to sinussnoringent.com. Their number is 512-601-0303. Sinus and snoring specialist. Feel clear, rested, and healthy. All right, Kat, so there's an update on a guy that, frankly, I'm hoping signs with the Aggies on February 7th, but things are very complicated in Aggie land right now.
You're hoping this dude just stops taking visits and sticks with his Aggie pledge.
Yes. This is an Aggie commit, but not yet signed, Mr. Terry Bussey. Yes?
A lot of people know the name. I think Rivals has him as a borderline 5-star. Other services have him as a 5-star. I think after his performance in the Under Armour game, there's a good chance he'll end up as a 5-star on the Rivals rankings. He's at the Polynesian Bowl in Hawaii right now, which is awesome if you can get that to happen. Somebody asked Sukamel, why aren't you at the Polynesian Bowl? And it was like, whoa. Why did anybody ask why I'm not at the Polynesian Bowl? Why can't I go to Hawaii? He did an interview with Rivals.com, and he kind of lays the whole thing out. He's getting ready to visit Georgia, and the reporter in about a minute-long video breaks down everything, and there's a Texas mention here to keep an eye on, because what you'll hear in this video is Terry Bussey suggest that an official visit to Texas could be in the works. I won't say any more, Blake. Let's play this minute-long clip of Terry Bussey yesterday in Hawaii talking about his recruiting situation.
Here with 5-star athlete Terry Bussey out here in Hawaii at the Polynesian Bowl. Terry, first of all, you told me you were still committed to Texas A&M. Tell me about where that stands right now.
They got Coach Oko. He's a great coach, and he brought in some great guys. And we're building a relationship, trying to stay committed to them. Just weighing in all my options right now.
Now, you are going to take some visits. Where are you going to go?
I have Georgia set up right now, but then I'm looking to set up LSU too, and maybe Texas.
And what are you looking to get from that visit with Georgia, from what you already know already?
I already know they got a great pedigree of putting great guys in the league. They got a real reputation over there. Just trying to see if it's really my vibe, if it fits me. Let's see what everything's like out there.
And then what about LSU?
I've been over there multiple times. About great guys, great staff. With all the changes they make, you know where we went last time, seeing what steps they take forward and who they are.
And then you mentioned Texas too. Obviously, they just extended Sarkisian, so you know he's going to be there a while. What do you like about them?
Great program. They're heading in the right direction. Coach Sark is building something special over the past couple of years. I've been a great team to be a part of.
And what are you trying to do as far as the decision timeline? Like, when are you trying to make your decision by?
I'm trying to make my decision by next signing day, but if it needs to go past, then it will.
All right. Good luck this week.
Yes, sir.
So leaving open the possibility that it may go past February 7th a little bit there. Interesting catch. So Georgia, LSU, the possibility of Texas thrown in there. Interesting language too about Mike Elko trying to. They're trying to.
There's a lot of things in there, Chad.
Yeah.
That it's not what he says. It's kind of the implications of what he says, or maybe what he doesn't say. I think you hit the nail on the head, right? Like, if we start with the Aggies, Mike Elko is a great coach. We're trying to do some things. We're trying to build a relationship that would have me end up in Aggie land. I think if we start with the Aggies, trying is the word that stands out the most.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's visiting Georgia. That's a big old uh-oh to everybody.
Right.
He's visiting Georgia this weekend. Uh-oh. He mentions LSU. It sounds like they're going to get a visit. When he talks about Texas, there's a maybe. Now, look, if you want to be, there's two ways to look at this. Glass half full, glass half empty. The glass half full is, hey, he is going out of his way to still talk about Texas. So if you're getting that, you're still in the puncher's chance category. You're only at a maybe officially right now, but he's bringing you up. He's suggesting that he might take this thing past the next signing day, which would, if it's a timing issue and I want to go visit. First of all, A&M's got a new coach, so he can make that visit. He wants to go visit Georgia. He wants to visit LSU. He's got time. The cool thing is when you're a 5-star, look, he doesn't ever have to sign a letter of intent, ever. If he wanted to, he could just take this to the summer if he wanted to. I think people sometimes misinterpret signing day for what it is. Signing day is so that these kids don't have don't have any leverage. And most guys can't get away with it. But if you're a 5-star, you can get away with a lot of stuff, including I'm just not going to sign a letter of intent. There's literally nothing in it that protects the player. I guess it protects the player in the sense that the school is committing to giving him financial aid and everything in the summer. Anyway, I'm not, you know what? I'm going to cut myself off because it's a tangent of mine, but he doesn't ever have to sign
Right.
if he want to. So he can take as much time as he wants to. I think if you're Texas, you want this thing to be prolonged. And I think the first thing that you mentioned and the last thing that he said was that, I'm going to try to have this thing done by signing day, but it might not be. And I think the thing to take from that is that he sounds you're an undecided guy. If you can't even commit to the date that's like almost a month away. It's not quite that far away, 3 weeks away. So, I think if you're a Texas A&M fan right now, I would be incredibly nervous because when he says it could go beyond signing day, if you were just going to end up at A&M, why would you need to do that?
Yeah, right. But I think it is, that word, the word trying, I do think is some honesty coming out of him because it is a brand new relationship. He's trying to figure that part out, and it's got to feel different from whatever it was with Jimbo and a previous staff and everything. So he's going to go through that process, but it's a good point to bring up. He's got the power as a big time 5-star. As I'm looking at the Rivals rankings today, the only 5-star in A&M's class by the Rivals rankings. And it's right down there at the bottom, and it says committed, but it does not say signed. Everybody else says signed. So that's what Aggies will wait for, but then who knows? Could be an extra good piece of news for Georgia. Maybe it's a good piece of news for LSU as things have rearranged there a little bit in terms of coaching staff. And that's the other thing for you, Catch, as you think of him. Forget about the school for a second. Bussey in college, offense or defense?
I think for me, I'd have him play wide receiver.
Okay. Because I know he's done everything in high school.
I think he had 6 catches for 101 yards. Like, I've seen enough to know that I like the ball in his hands.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Thanks to everybody for jumping in the Specs chat. We've had some good chats throughout the show. I like this one earlier. Buy or sell from Brad. Texas is in a better position than anyone to be the next Alabama. Boy.
Sell? Isn't that Georgia?
I was thinking the exact same thing.
I mean, Brad, if we're coming up with a top 5 list, Texas is on that. But right now, Georgia's still better than Texas. And look, nobody's going to fight that too much, right? I mean, they're the 2-time defending champion going into this season. They lost 1 game. They lost the wrong game. If you were going to lose a game at all, you couldn't lose that game. But there's still a lot of suspicion that if they played Michigan, they might open up a can. So it's still Georgia, but is there a long call list before? I mean, let's do this. Let's take Georgia out of the equation. Probably Texas or Michigan, but what's Michigan about to be? And
right.
And I don't even know what Michigan is next year. Their quarterback position is, before this week is over, if we get so much as a 10-minute break where we can talk about something non-portal, non-coaching, non-recruiting, we may talk about how Michigan right now is going to look like a completely different team next year than they were this year. The departure of J.J. McCarthy on Sunday is brutal. So maybe I can't think of anybody other than Texas to have on that list, given that 3/4 of the teams that just played in the playoff no longer have, well, that includes Harbaugh, I suppose, but given so much shakeup at the top of college football, it's certainly a fair point that one can make.
Yep. If you want to jump into that Specs chat, go right ahead. Of course, the super chats go right to the top. We appreciate that. Blake, let's give Specs a little love here. 15 seconds of Specs. Never hurt anybody. It's pretty cold outside. You might need to get the stuff delivered. You might not have to go outside for it. Specs has everything for you. Here you go.
No matter what you're needing, Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
All right, we rolled through a house divided. We got buy or sell coming up at 1. We also have some portal stuff to talk about, Catch. Are you ready? You ready to see it?
I stay ready. I wish this was my telephone ring.
Fight! Get over here! Finish him!
All right, Portal Combat time. Is it Jabar Muhammad? Is that the place to start?
It's not a bad place to start. One of our rivals websites, our Alabama rivals website, had a chance to do what looked like a pretty lengthy little interview with Jabar Muhammad yesterday. And he had some interesting quotes worth passing along. This is what he says of Alabama. Quote, "Of course, you know the history of Alabama and everything they're known for, sending every position to the league and things like that. I know Coach DeBoer, and I know some of the guys he's bringing over. So, of course, I'm comfortable being in that situation." On Oregon, quote, "I think Oregon's on the high rise. They have a lot of things in place for people who want to get to the next level, and they have a lot of coaches who can teach you a lot of things. Their defense is very good. They'd really highlight me as a piece in their defense. I feel like I can make a lot of plays in their defense," end quote. Of Texas, quote, "They're going to the SEC this year, and they look like an SEC team. They look like they fit," end quote.
That's a great compliment from afar.
Yeah, but it's not much of a compliment. I mean, I think reading those, Oregon sounds number one. If I'm just forget all the backstory of things that I know of. He really lays it on thick with Oregon and really describes how he would fit in that defense. Then he mentions of Alabama. He does know Coach DeBoer, and he'll know some of the guys bringing over, so he certainly would be comfortable there. Of Texas, he just says they're going to the SEC, and they look like an SEC team.
Yeah. The other thing with me, Catch, is all of this is so tough to keep up with sometimes in terms of timing. Did Muhammad go into the portal before DeBoer left?
No.
Or after?
After.
It was after. Okay. Because I think that could be a qualification you have to watch of, would the kid ultimately be just wanting a fresh look away from, not that he doesn't like DeBoer, but if it was indeed after that, then there could be a thought of, again, do you have a Lincoln Riley, Caleb Williams possibility there where somebody may be in a follow mode, or, hey, let me know where you end up kind of a thing. And then we could talk. He's going to be big. And for those, obviously, when we've talked about it, we remind people that he is Malik Muhammad's cousin. That's interesting. This is a Texas guy, DeSoto product, just like Malik. So the fact that you got that Dallas area feel to it, that's got a Texas fan interested in what could be possible. But I would agree with you. It certainly sounds like he's impressed with what Oregon has to offer, and why wouldn't he be?
I think the thing that he doesn't say in those quotes, but become the most interesting thing maybe in the entire article, is that he says he's still working on finalizing his visits. Okay, so at this point, nothing has been set up based on a conversation from yesterday, but this is going to move fast. He says he wants to visit his top 3 of Alabama, Oregon, and Texas. He wants to have the decision made by the end of the week. So it's Tuesday. He's going to be very active very quickly. And then you do have to wonder, does he make all 3 visits? Does he the one thing we always say about the portal, that is, you want the first visit, because oftentimes the first visit becomes the only visit. It'll be interesting to see the order of those three. Oregon's definitely getting a visit. Will he hold out and then visit Alabama and then Texas? Look, I heard some pessimism on Sunday night regarding the possibility of him ending up at Texas. I'm not anticipating it now, even though he does have three cousins and playing Texas athletics right now. It would bring him closer to home. There's a lot of positives should he show up to Texas on a personal level, but I don't think they're where Oregon is right now for a couple of different reasons. And I'll just go ahead and say it. I heard over the weekend that there were some complicated academic things that were making it difficult to just say, yes, you can get in. And ever since I've heard that, there's been some pessimism there. We'll see what happens, but I don't think I'm expecting that to happen. I mean, full transparency, we're doing an update on Jabar Muhammad, but if I had to handicap it right now, I'd probably go Oregon 1, Alabama 2, Texas 3. And I have not heard that these problematic things that would need to be worked out have been worked out.
Yeah. Real quick, catch a chat. Somebody getting caught up. Henry says, so Akina isn't coming to Austin. Henry, right now, it looks like that may not be the case because a job may be offered on the Arizona staff. The new
Nothing's official there, but we've seen a report from an Arizona Wildcats reporter who's suggesting that that is what's going to happen, that Dwayne Akina will return to the Arizona staff, potentially in an on-the-field position and not as an analyst.
Yeah, if it's an analyst, that to me wouldn't make much sense. If he was ready to come to Texas as an analyst and then goes back there to be an analyst, that would be weird. But if he's actually going to be one of the coaches, then that's a little different situation. Thank you for that chat. If you want to jump in the Specs chat, go right ahead. Super chats obviously will go right to the top of the list. Catch, how about Silas Bolden, the wide receiver that was at Oregon State? I keep seeing more and more thought about him and how he might fit at Texas.
Still, nothing's really changed from yesterday. No decision, no announcement of whether or not he's going to take another visit this weekend or sometime in the middle of the week. So at this point, we're in a holding pattern with Silas Bolden. Things look really good with Texas, unless I think he starts taking more visits. I think if he's going to end up a Longhorn, he'll be a Longhorn in the next few days. If this starts to extend itself, then I'm not so certain that it'll happen.
Kendrick Blackshire, the linebacker transferring from Alabama, who also was in for the visit last weekend along with Bolden in that group. Blackshire as a Longhorn?
Sounds like the visit went well. Sounds like he wasn't tipping his hand on the visit. I haven't heard anybody definitively say, yes, Texas is getting Blackshire. I think a decision could come today. I think a decision could come in the next 24, 48 hours. It's between Texas and Ole Miss. Could he take another visit? It remains to be seen. It looked like a Texas-Ole Miss battle. I think there's some thought that he's just trying to decide between the two schools right now.
Gotcha. And then a pronunciation adjustment here, too. I like this one. Benjamin Jurasic, I believe is who we're going with. Do I have that right? Yes, we got a thumbs up there. Jurasic, short O in the middle. Benjamin Jurasic, the tight end from Stanford.
Now he sounds like a vodka.
It does kind of. Yeah, I like that. Maybe that's why I like it so much. But I love that tight end.
Like something that you would.
Yeah. And obviously, if I'm a Texas fan, you wish nothing but the best for JT Sanders moving forward, but you'd love to hear about something at the tight end position that really gets you excited. So this to me feels like a guy that could kind of fit into that. What are you hearing there?
Nothing really new in the last 24 hours. We're waiting to hear exactly when he'll visit. Will it be on the weekend? Is he going to come in the middle of the week? Could it be in Austin today? All of those things are on the table, waiting to hear a little bit more of specifics with him. But it looks like a Texas-Georgia battle at the moment. And as I mentioned yesterday, Georgia's pretty loaded at tight end. So, the kid just wants to go to Athens and be a part of Georgia. I get it, right? I think we would all get it. If it's like, this is my last year and I want to showcase myself for the NFL and I want as much playing time as possible, I think that's advantage Texas. I think assuming he makes it to a Texas visit, and again, we're just waiting on the specifics of when exactly that will take place, I think there's a really good chance that kid ends up at Texas. It felt like Texas may have slow played that a little bit and waiting to see what exactly what the position looked like when the smoke cleared, a little bit like they were doing at the wide receiver position. But surely it wasn't an accident that of all days yesterday on Monday, it comes out that he's going to visit Texas this week. It feels like they had kind of maybe delayed that for just a little bit. Now it sounds like they're putting the full throttle down. And I think as long as they do that, I think there's a real good chance that kid ends up at Texas.
Do you think Sark has a pretty good reputation with tight ends at this point? We just mentioned JT Sanders as being thought of as maybe that second guy. I don't think we'd argue he overly uses tight ends, but do you think he's got a rep where it's at least in a discussion with a Georgia where a tight end thinks, obviously we know what a tight end might think of Bowers and what they've been, but do you think he has a decent argument for a tight end that, hey, if you come to Texas, you will get developed, you will head to the NFL?
No.
Okay.
I think that they'll be able to look and say, hey, JT Sanders, this is what we did with Sanders. I think that's the best thing they've got going for them is to say, just look at the guy that just left, all of the things that he did that's going to put him in a position to be an early draft pick in May. We can do that with you. But I think he actually didn't have a rep at Alabama at all with regards to tight ends, that was a position that they weren't getting a lot out of and that it was more wide receiver full throttle. So his reputation before Texas wasn't great with tight ends. Obviously the development of Sanders helps in that discussion, but no, it's not like the quarterback position where he can just throw out the laundry list of guys that he's worked with.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what Jurasic does there, where he ends up. Those are names to definitely keep in mind. Who am I leaving out, Catch? Who else in the portal do we need to be paying attention to? I hit the big names I was thinking. I
think now it's about speculating on who else they might be interested in. We talked about the Arizona guys. What happens there? What happens with Harbaugh in Michigan? But I think those are the main guys right now. Okay. We covered the tight end. I saw
another big dog from Bama got in the portal. It's a safety, I want to say.
They've lost a number of DBs, but there's nobody yet that the tentacles have connected to Texas with. Yeah. Although Alabama's lost a few guys that you would think they might have an interest in, except they're so young that you'd be talking about they're basically the level of, it's like a Kobe Black level prospect. Mm-hmm. And, bringing him in adds talent to the program, but it also, it's just another young guy that you'd be throwing in the mix to compete with your young guys. So it's not the ideal profile, but they're probably kicking the tires on that. The thing is, I think they want one more DB. And if they're going to take another DB in this class, it's going to be somebody who potentially projects as a starter this year. Mm-hmm. I think they got all of the prospects at those positions that they probably feel like they need right now.
Yeah, and thank you for that name on the chat. Trey Amos is the guy that I was thinking of that I saw. He is going into the portal for Alabama. Quick super chat here, Catch. $5 from Tom G. What's up, Tom? Hope you're staying warm today. Catch, DK Moore is showing up for junior day. Does he end up with the good guys come signing day? I'm assuming is that DeCorian Moore or is that a different person? Okay. DeCorian Moore, the wide receiver at Duncanville.
There's been some back and forth on whether or not that's going to happen. I haven't seen that absolutely confirmed. I'll check on that and have an answer for you the very latest. I saw something earlier today and I skimmed over it, and I should have known. I should have read that fully because I'd get a super chat question from Tom G about that I should have read about.
There you go. Tom, we appreciate it. Again, we hope you are having a good day. Hope everybody is avoiding that cold as much as they can today. Catch, we will definitely get a little buy or sell going on. Also, might have a minute or two to talk about Mr. Harbaugh and what's going on with him over the last couple of days. Real quick, though, why don't we talk my perfect franchise? Let people know what Andy can do for them.
I mean, it's real simple. You want potentially, if you're out there and you've always wanted to do something different with your life, a different job, a different career, working from home, whatever the case may be, you've had a passion or a love that you've never been able to weaponize into the thing that you do your entire life. That's where myperfectfranchise.net can step in. Contact Andy at either of those two contacts, either the email or the phone number, and reach out and say, look, don't commit yourself to anything if you're not ready for it, but say, look, I've always wanted to do this, and I have this idea of doing this. Is it something that I could do, that we could make work? How do we do it? What's the first step? Those are the questions that Andy answers. He's there to help guide you to following the path that you've always wanted to follow. It's time to start living the dream and not just thinking about it and not just talking about it and not just dreaming about it. It's time to start doing it. Reach out to Andy at myperfectfranchise.net.
All right, rolling through a Tuesday show. A reminder, new schedule in effect. So a little later on, 2 o'clock, the crap bag with all kinds of stuff, whatever's in my head today, including some NFL. We'll talk coaching stuff. There's a lot to get to, and it's Turnover Tuesday. So I'll throw some stats at you as well. But at 4 o'clock this afternoon, you are going to want to make sure to get your notifications. Like, subscribe, get your notifications, because the Modcast is back this afternoon at 4 with the very latest info around Texas football and all kinds of stuff. So 4 o'clock this afternoon. It's going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 for the Modcast, featuring this guy over here.
I mean, I'll be in it. Along with Anwar, Alex, we assume Jason, although maybe some Travis. We'll see how Jason's voice is doing. Speaking of Sukumel, per him seconds ago, Moore hasn't confirmed his plans for the junior day and whether or not he will be there, but Sukumel doesn't think he's going to be there.
Gotcha. Okay. And by the way, I was reading through, speaking of Sukumel, I was reading through the 321 article at orangebloods.com. It's always a good time to jump into orangebloods.com if you're a big Texas fan. But Sukumel listed out the guys that he has confirmed will be a part at this point are going to be a part of this junior day this weekend. My God, there were 20 names isn't fair. I think it might have been more like 35, 40 names total, but you can see them all there at orangebloods.com. So get signed up. Buy or sell coming up at 1. Catch. Would you like the Jim Harbaugh update?
Yes.
So Jim Harbaugh apparently has interviewed with the Los Angeles Chargers in the NFL, and a story is now getting out about negotiations with Michigan continuing and what Jim Harbaugh wants from Michigan. Apparently, he wants immunity from termination from any finding or sanction on one of these current investigations that are going on. That is breaking in the last, few hours with Jim Harbaugh, because, nobody can shut up in these negotiations and these discussions. So it's going to get at little things like that might get out. What do you make of Harbaugh trying to put that on Michigan's plate if it's true?
It's a very Trumpian thing. I'm not going to make it political or not, but when you start saying things like, I don't want to be punished if there's any reason whatsoever, I don't want to be the guy. It's just a hell of a suggestion to even make public.
Yeah, right. To have it. And then I'll be honest, I have not been able to dig through to find exactly how is this becoming public? Does Jim Harbaugh want this out there? Is this something his agent is? I'm assuming Jimmy Sexton is with him as well. But is it something that his agent would want out there? or wouldn't, like, I don't know how all that would work, but you're right. It just sounds so like backhanded dirty. I want to be able to, just so you know, I want to be able to avoid. So that's a wild thing to put Michigan through, Catch. He just won you the Natty. He just won you everything you've ever wanted, and you get to stick it in Ohio State's face, at least for now. When it comes to the three, when it comes to the 3 investigations, I'm going to be the Michigan guy. I'll be the Michigan bigwig, right? I'm a booster. I'm in maize and blue, and I'm ready to rock. Okay, if you found out that he lied during COVID, that he had some recruiting trip during COVID and lied about it, could you live with it? Michigan booster might say, yeah, I can live with it. Sure, whatever, cheeseburger, right? Okay, that's step 1. Step 2 is like a coach that was involved in some kind of deal. But again, that feels a little more procedural. Oh, yeah, it's fine. Whatever. We can deal with that. The big one, obviously, is going to be the cheating scandal, the Connor Stallions. If you find out there's evidence, capital E evidence that he knew about it or would have had to know about that, can you live with the idea that he orchestrated it and he's your guy? That's the one I don't know if the booster could process that one all the way through.
Again, I think if you're Michigan people, to me, they've already like wrestled with this and swallowed it. They know their guy is guilty. Mm-hmm. They know that they cheated, and they've decided that, like, hey, everybody else is cheating. Like they've spun this however they need to spin it. This is really for the rest of us. I don't think they'll have a problem. I think they're okay with, well, if he did something, he was doing it because God told him to or something, right? Like you'll make up whatever you need to justify like whatever mental gymnastics you've created for yourself. So this is weirdly, I think, about everybody else, so that if it does come out that he's really guilty, he's super guilty, if you will,
right? That
he can't. So what will happen is nationally, there will be a demand to fire Harbaugh. And what Harbaugh wants apparently in the deal is like, well, that just can't happen. Yeah. And it's not the Michigan people. Ultimately, there's like a person at Michigan that's got to decide, can I live with the national scrutiny that will come with that? But he didn't have to sell it to Michigan people, I don't think.
Well, here's the other part. Here's the other part, Catch. And thanks to Blake, the super producer, for shooting this our way as Dov Kleiman puts out potential Michigan extension contract details per Dan Wetzel. So this is what Wetzel is hearing right now. 6 years, $11.5 million guaranteed per year. So we're talking Jimbo money for 6 years, the highest in college football, immunity from termination for any finding from multiple current NCAA investigations.
That's the boldest thing I've ever heard.
Dude, that's 6 years. So wait a minute. Think about that. That's extra 2 layers, Catch. So I get immunity. The deal is for 6 years. You got me for 6 football seasons. And during those 6 years, you got to pay me $11.5 a year. It's guaranteed money. So when I sign, I get every penny. And you can't fire me during the 6 years if they find out that I was at Connor Stallion's house. And you get
can't fire me for cause.
Right. You can't fire me for cause as long as it's with one of these 3 things. You can't. They can release a video of me and Connor Stallion putting it together in his basement, going detail by detail, but you can't fire me for that. You still have to pay me $11.5. That's bold. That tells me, Catch, my man wants an NFL job bad. He really does, because I don't know that there's any way Michigan can say yes to that.
I think they will. I don't know if that means then he would sign the deal, but I think why is this getting out now?
I don't know. It's a great question.
Ask yourself that.
All I can think of is he is a Sexton guy, right?
I don't know who Harbaugh's agent is.
Okay. I would have to I will double check that while we're sitting here talking, but I would imagine there's got to be some would an agent put that out? Why would an agent have that out?
I think, to me, that sounds like something somebody from the school put out. Why are they putting it out? Because he might leave.
Oh,
so
that's right. Don Yee. He hired Don Yee, who's known as a famous agent for NFL coaches. That's why people think an extra reason they think he's going pro.
If Michigan people today are wondering about, feels like we're being held hostage and what are we doing while he's doing this? That's the kind of thing that like the AD leaks to a national reporter that says, hey, this is what he's asking for, just so you know.
Right. No, exactly. I that's what I was going to say. I think this comes from the Michigan side to protect themselves when he ends up in the pros and people try to say, well, you didn't try to keep him. Oh, no. We did try to keep him. We were willing to go here. He wanted to go here.
We were willing to go 6 years, 11 point whatever, guaranteed, but that wasn't enough. He wanted an extra pound of flesh, and this is where he wanted the pound of flesh to come from, and we couldn't give him the pound of flesh from our brain.
Yeah. It is interesting, too, that he's basically allowing for, if it's just about termination, he's basically saying, you could suspend me for like 10 games. You can suspend me. You can put me on probation. You can fine me. You just can't terminate me, right? You just can't get rid of me to where you don't have to pay me all that money. That's bold. Wow.
And to be fair to him, as if he needs it, right?
Yeah.
To be fair to Jim, he's going to have NFL jobs that'll give him the guarantee and give him the money per year.
Mm-hmm.
And he won't have to worry about, if they fire him, he'll get all of the money. He just wants this thing that says, I get the same amount of money that I would if I was in the NFL. And here's the thing. The only thing that can take that from me is something from this investigation or these investigations. So I see why he's asking for it. You know, Chad, if you and I were going to, you're like, Catch, I'm ready to sign an Orange Bloods live contract. 5 years, guaranteed money. And I was like, cool. So here's how it works. Like, if I want to fire you, you know, without cause, I had to give you all the money. What I need in the contract is like, you know, if you commit felonies, if you do something that would really besmirch the Orange Bloods Association, you know, like if it turns out you're a pedophile on Epstein's list, like I need to have that ability to protect myself. And then you came back to me and like, no, Catch, can't have an Epstein clause. Like, wait, what?
Well, and that's the thing. It's the specificity of it that's weird to me, because the trap Michigan could find themselves in, Catch, is they are already comfortable in a way with protecting him from these three things. Yeah. You think about it, right? They suspended him, but he's still their guy. And then he coaches them to the national title. Couldn't the Harbaugh people, Don Yee or whoever, just say, well, wait a minute, you guys are comfortable with him, right? You know that he didn't do this or do that or whatever, or maybe quietly behind the scenes. Look, y'all know that he sent Connor Stallions to that Penn State game or was intending to, but you were willing to live with it. You were willing to let him be your guy. He coached you in the title game. So what's the deal? Because then they could say, look, if he gets caught doing X, Y, Z, if he gets caught doing something at that other Michigan State, Penn State level, something wacky like that, well, of course you fire him for that. Felonies. Yeah. What we're saying is these 3 investigations. If you find anything in there that he was wrong, you could find anything you want under these 3 umbrellas. You cannot fire him for those 3 things.
Yeah, but if I said, Chad, here's the deal. In an Orange Bloods contract, it says you can be fired for dealing drugs, sexual assault, kids. I don't want to say the word, but robbing banks, stealing cars, and then you stopped me and went, whoa, 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 whoa. All that sounds okay, except for I'm not signing any deal that I can get fired if I rob a bank. You're just like, wait, what?
Right. But again, this would already this would already have to be something in place, though. This would have to be like I'd be under investigation currently for like stealing cars, right? Or I'm under investigation for running drugs, right? I'm currently under investigation for running drugs in and out of Canada or whatever it is. And then I say, now look, no matter what they find in that part, Catch, you can't terminate me for that. So that after we sign our deal, they could find that I was running drugs to and from Canada at like Nate Newton times 10 levels. And you couldn't, and at that point, you wouldn't be able to terminate me for that. That's what Harbaugh wants. And that's
college athletics are the best. And by the best, I mean, they really are the worst.
It's really, really dirty. It really is dirty. That's the latest on Jim Harbaugh. More on that later, I'm sure, in other forums. We'll keep our eyes on that story. It is House Divided on a Tuesday. We have crossed over that 1 o'clock hour spot. So you ready to buy or sell a little bit here, Catch?
Sure.
First or second?
I'll go first today.
Hit it.
Buy or sell number 1. Dwayne Akina going back to Arizona. That's the report. And ultimately, you just don't think it's that big of a deal.
I'll buy. There's a lot of nostalgia, I know, around him. This is about getting Texas's defense dialed up a little better on the back end. And I don't know that this version of Dwayne Akina is the absolute way to do that, especially as an analyst. So I would tell a Texas fan not to freak out too much.
Buy or sell number 2. You hate to admit this about yourself, but you feel a little bit better as a Cowboys fan today because of what happened to the Eagles last night.
Oh, buy. And it's probably more than a little. Yeah. A, that they lost is one thing. B, the fact that I actually care about the team that beat them, that's kind of another thing. But yeah, watching the Eagles, I mean, it was like the Eagles watched the Cowboys playoff performance and then said, hey, hold our sucky playoff beer, watch this, and then lost 32-9. Yeah, that was nice, and I don't care what kind of fan it makes me, that I enjoyed it.
Buy or sell number 3. You dearly, dearly hope that Mike Elko has his personnel guys looking at the San Jose State roster list just to see if maybe they have someone A&M good.
Well, buy, of course. Yeah. Of course. I mean, at this point, you got to be looking everywhere. You got to understand, Catch, as of today, I believe I saw the number right. My Aggies have acquired 20 dudes in the portal. 20, okay? 20. Texas has had 4, if y'all are trying to compare the sides of the house divided there. It's a very different world on both sides of the house right now. So, yes, but yeah, you got to check under every rock, check around every corner, and just double check. Make sure everything is accounted for. Yes, bye.
I may or may not have combed the San Jose State roster last night. Just wondering who might be worth a damn. They have an all-conference defensive tackle, but he's like 6 foot. And I thought, that does sound like a San Jose State Mountain West all-conference player. 6 foot something. I don't even see his weight listed. They just call him 6 foot. And I thought, that's probably not Sark. That's probably not going to be his MO.
They just put an emoji of a fire hydrant right next to him. Is that what it was?
A short fire hydrant.
Right.
Buy or sell number 4. You think the Baltimore Ravens at this moment, they're going to win the Super Bowl?
Right now, that's a buy. That is a machine that is rolling down the hill here. We'll see what San Francisco looks like to get back into it, but I feel like Baltimore's just had less issues than other teams. They're getting healthy at the right time. I know there's certain situations they'd like to be a little healthier, but right now, that's the team for me until I see something different. If I had to put my money down in Vegas at the window, I think I'd put it on Lamar and Harbaugh right now.
And finally, buy or sell number 5, my favorite show, The Bear, basically won everything at the Emmys last night. And that means now I got to watch it. It has to go to the top of the list.
I mean, that was already a buy. I'll give it the extra buy. I'm so happy for the show and him. I'll see a little blurb here and there about other actors that are in the show that I didn't even know about. And I go, oh, no, I love her. She's in that show. Oh, I like him. He's in the show. So I'm looking forward to it. I got to get going. They're about to hit season 3, right? So all I have to do is cover 2 seasons.
Yes.
Okay. 2 seasons should be no problem. It's going right to the top of the list. My wife and I are going to start watching the Frozen Jodie Foster show. But other than that, I'll try to get started.
I watched last night. I stayed up to watch the Frozen. Is that what we're calling it? The Frozen Jodie Foster show?
Or Frozen Detective. What do you want to call it? Jodie Foster. It's
Frozen True Detective, I believe.
Frozen True Detective, yes.
By the way, when we say it's Frozen, I mean there's Alaska, and then there's wherever the hell they're doing this show.
Yeah.
It is super cold.
Yeah, it's way up there. So I'll check it out. Definitely will. Halfway through buy or sell on this Tuesday. Catch, you and I were both thinking along the same lines. Buy or sell number 1. The Dallas win made you sad. Dallas, did I say win? I typed win. Hopefully Blake saw my mistake. Sorry. The Dallas loss made you sad is what I meant to type. Philadelphia's loss made you happy. The happiness outweighs the sadness. See, look, I actually typed the word win.
That's a good question.
I typed a win because I
buy. So buy.
It's a buy? Okay.
It is a buy.
Right.
I definitely found it's close. The thing is, I got over the Dallas thing pretty quickly. Like before the game ended, I was over it. So if we talk about what my feelings at the end of the game, like in the middle of the game, I was like, get the fuck out of here. But by it's kind of a push, but I'll go buy.
Gotcha. All right, Catch. On this one, we will say it didn't age super well, but let's update everybody. Buy or sell number 2, Johnny Nansen back to Arizona as the head coach. Texas will need to reshop for a linebacker coach.
Sell. I feel good about this one too, Chad. Put me on the record.
There you go. If you missed it, San Jose State's coach is going to be the new coach
at Arizona. Write this question last night at 10 o'clock?
It was earlier today, and it does look like Johnny Nansen's going to stay at Texas. All right, buy or sell number 3, Catch. Today, your Super Bowl pick would be San Francisco and Baltimore.
Boy, our heads are in the same places.
It was.
It's a buy. I'm trying to now think. In both of those cases, is there a team that I think is most likely it might be Detroit.
That's what I was thinking too. To derail it. If anybody's derailing it, I mean, you always say, and Mahomes, right? Mahomes or Allen, whoever wins that game could mess it up.
Well, and Lamar's still got to play well in the playoffs. I mean,
right?
We haven't had a Baltimore game yet, but trust us, as Cowboy fans, old narratives pop up real quick, like on fast forward motion. If you even when did you know Dallas was in trouble?
When did I know Dallas was in trouble against Green Bay?
Yeah. What was the moment that made you go, fuck?
Let me see. The moment I knew they were in trouble against Green Bay.
I have an answer.
The first bad feeling was at 7-0. Because I turned to my dad and said, if they can't tackle him any better than that, nothing else matters today. So I'd say, but after 2 drives at 7-0 Green Bay, even before it became 14-0, I'd say I was starting to worry. And then I knew it at, was it 20-0? I mean, that was done. That was done. As soon as it went to 3 full touchdowns, in my soul, I knew it was over.
I didn't know it was over, but my first this is happening was before 7-0. It was right before they scored, and it dawned on me, holy shit, man, they've eaten up the half of the first quarter.
Yep.
And I was like, we're in trouble. And then they scored to make it 7-0. And then I was like, we're in trouble. And then it never got better from there.
No, it didn't. Yes, that's interesting. Yeah, see, we were right about that same time. It was just like, whoa, this may be really, really bad. All right, catch buy or sell number 4, Silas Bolden and Kendrick Blackshire to Texas by tomorrow.
Sell. That seems like you gave me an easy to get out of jail card there. I don't know when either of those guys are definitively making their decisions. It could happen by tomorrow, but I'll sell for now and just lean on the math. If Blackshire's 50%, let's call him 50-50. And if Golden is, let's say, 80% to Texas.
Right. Bolden.
What did I say? Golden?
I think you said Golden.
Jesus, I'll probably have it 100 more times. Then that's only a 40% chance of likelihood. If one guy's 50 and the other guy's 80, the mathematical likelihood that you get both is 40%.
Yeah.
So, and then you throw in the buy tomorrow component of that. I'm going to lean into the math and say sell.
Yeah, and we got to realize, kids, Texas could end up with a Bond, a Bolden, and a Golden, and then there's the powder called Gold Bond. There's a lot going on right now with words. Finally, catch buy or sell number 5. It is Sade's birthday today. Prime on prime, Sade hotter than Janet.
Sell. Look, Janet, circa, was it like 93 when she did That's the Way Love Goes? Neither of them are hotter than that moment. That was Janet's apex, and Sade never got there.
I think I would agree with you. What if I'd said Sade hotter than Sheila E?
Ooh. Yeah, I might buy that.
Yeah.
I might buy that. But Janet in 1993 was
with
out
you.
of control sexy.
Yeah, I always go to just one thing. It's just the If video. That's all I need to say to people. That Janet Jackson to me is almost impossible to beat. That particular Janet Jackson with that, like the top that looked like it was made out of bones and the midriff and the hair was perfect and the face and
Janet used to do midriff maybe better than anybody on the planet.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like it was just so damn, it was almost so sexy you couldn't call them abs. You had to say midriff. It was almost a reason to use the word. She was so attractive. So there you go. That is how we buy or sell every day at about 1 o'clock or so. So we've hit a lot today. We have hit a lot in House Divided. If you just maybe jumped in, it looks like
That's my wrap it up sign.
Oh, I thought maybe that was a false start. Maybe we had a false start.
No, I was wrapping it up.
Yes, we've had a lot of stuff today. Let's hit you with one more thing, and it's your heating and cooling. McCullough Heating and Air Conditioning is damn cold out there. It was like less than 20, right around 20 when I got up today. Make sure your heater and your air conditioner are ready for maybe the next time this happens, or maybe it's that big summer that's coming. 518-0119 or go to coolmenow.com. They've been around since 1977, and I always remind you, 1,500 4.8 star ratings on Google. So they have been a trusted source for this for a long time. Just $39 to make sure your system's running right with McCullough Heating and Air Conditioning. There's your QR code to scan. They are Austin. They are HVAC. They are McCullough. 518-0119 or coolmenow.com. All right, let's remind you what's coming up a little bit later. Coming up at 2 o'clock, it is the first official episode of the Crap Bag, even though I'm kind of always the Crap Bag, but got a lot of stuff to get to there today, including Turnover Tuesday. This is how much Jeff Ketchum didn't like Turnover Tuesday. He just said, dude, make it its own show. Just
no, that's not true.
Go do whatever the hell you're going to do. But we have that. And by the way, Catch, I also have, since the playoffs went to an expanded format, there's only one team in the NFL that went +5 in turnovers in a playoff game and lost. Only one. And I'll remind everybody who that is coming up in the crap bag today. Also, at 4 o'clock this afternoon, the return of one of your favorite things. And if it's not one of your favorite things, trust me, it's going to be. That is the Modcast at 4 o'clock. So Mondays and Wednesdays at 4, it's going to be the recruiting show. Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 in the new lineup, it is going to be the Modcast. So be sure you got your notifications. Like, subscribe, get your notifications for this afternoon at 4 o'clock. Any preview that you would like to throw out for the people, Catch, for the Modcast?
No.
Fair enough.
There
it is.
It'll be the Modcast. Like I don't even, if you don't even know what that implication of that means, stay tuned. It's where arguments happen. It's where bets are made that never actually get repaid. It is a magical Hotel California-ish kind of place.
There you go. That's coming up at 4 this afternoon. Thanks to Blake, the super producer, for all his great work. And thanks to all of you for jumping in the Specs chat today. A lot of good chats, a lot of great super chats. Those always go right to the front of the line. We do appreciate you. Everybody stay warm out there until high noon tomorrow. We are house divided. See ya.